I never thought my own brother would be the one to destroy my marriage. But there I was, standing in our empty apartment on what should have been our 5th wedding anniversary, holding a note that would change everything. Gone to celebrate with Marcus and his secretary. Don't wait up. Sarah, Marcus, my younger brother. The golden boy who could do no wrong in everyone's eyes. The same brother who had been my best man, who had promised to always look out for my family, and Sarah, my wife of 5 years, had chosen to spend our anniversary with him instead of me. I should have seen the signs. The late-night phone calls she claimed were work emergencies, the way she'd light up whenever Marcus called, the secret glances they'd share during family dinners. But I was blind, stupidly loyal, and completely in love with a woman who had already moved on. I should have seen the signs. The late-night phone calls she claimed were work emergencies, the way she'd light up whenever Marcus called, the secret glances they'd share during family dinners. But I was blind, stupidly loyal, and completely in love with a woman who had already moved on. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marcus worked as a regional manager at Henderson & Associates, a mid-sized consulting firm in downtown Seattle. Sarah was supposedly his secretary, though I later learned she'd been promoted to his personal assistant months ago. They'd been spending more time together than she ever spent with me. I called Marcus that night, my hands shaking as I dialed his number. He answered on the 3rd ring, and I could hear Sarah's laughter in the background. "Hey, Daniel, what's up?" "What's up? It's my wedding anniversary, Marcus. Where's my wife?" The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Then, in a voice I barely recognized, he said, "Look, Dan, Sarah and I, we need to talk to you. Things have gotten complicated." Complicated. That's what he called it. 5 years of marriage, reduced to a complication. They came home at 2 in the morning, both of them reeking of champagne and guilt. Sarah couldn't even look at me as she sat on our couch, still wearing the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary dinner. Marcus, at least, had the decency to appear ashamed. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I never meant for this to happen." "What exactly happened, Marcus?" Sarah finally spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're in love, Daniel. I'm sorry, but I can't pretend anymore." The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd suspected, but hearing it confirmed felt like drowning. My brother and my wife, the 2 people I trusted most in the world. "How long?" I managed to ask. 6 months. Sarah admitted. "I tried to fight it, Daniel. I really did. But Marcus understands me in ways that—" "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop." Marcus stepped forward. And for a moment I thought he might actually try to comfort me. Instead, he said, "We didn't plan this, Dan. But we can't help how we feel." That night, I packed my bags and moved into a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. The divorce papers arrived 2 weeks later. Sarah had already moved in with Marcus, and according to the gossip mill, they were planning to get married as soon as our divorce was finalized. I spent the next 6 months in a haze of anger and self-pity. I'd lost my job at the marketing firm where I'd worked for 3 years. Turns out it's hard to focus on advertising campaigns when your life is falling apart. I was surviving on odd jobs and the last of my savings when everything changed. I was walking downtown, probably looking for another temporary gig, when I literally ran into an elderly man outside the Starbucks on Pine Street. His coffee went flying, and I immediately started apologizing, offering to buy him another one. "No harm done, son," he said, studying me with sharp blue eyes. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders." Something about his kind demeanor made me open up. Maybe it was because he was a stranger, or maybe I was just desperate to talk to someone who didn't know my story. I told him everything. The betrayal, the divorce, the job loss, the whole mess my life had become. He listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or asking a clarifying question. When I finished, he handed me his business card. "William Thompson, CEO of Thomson Industries. We're a Fortune 500 company specializing in business consulting and management solutions. I think you might be exactly what we need. I stared at the card in disbelief. Thomson Industries was huge. They had contracts with companies all over the Pacific Northwest. I don't understand. You don't even know my qualifications. I know enough, he said with a smile. I've been in business for 40 years and I can spot potential when I see it. You've been through hell, son. But you're still standing. That tells me something about your character. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in a corner office on the 30th floor of the Thomson Industries building, with a title I never dreamed I'd have: Director of Client Relations and Strategic Development. The salary was more than I'd ever made in my life, but the real shock came during my first company briefing. As I was reviewing the list of client companies we'd be working with, one name jumped out at me: Henderson and Associates. We've had some issues with Henderson and Associates, my new assistant, Jennifer, explained. Their performance metrics have been declining, and there have been reports of unprofessional conduct among their management team. Mr. Thompson wants you to do a full evaluation and recommend whether we should renew their contract. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Marcus worked at Henderson and Associates. This was either the universe's idea of a cosmic joke or the opportunity I never knew I needed. I spent the next month diving deep into Henderson and Associates records. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Marcus had been falsifying reports, inflating his team's performance numbers, and worst of all, he'd been embezzling money from client accounts to fund his lavish lifestyle with Sarah. The evidence was overwhelming. Forged signatures, backdated documents, unexplained transfers. It was all there, hidden in the accounting records that no one had bothered to audit in years. I could have reported him immediately, but something held me back. Maybe it was the desire to see his face when he realized who held his future in their hands. Maybe it was the need for more personal justice. The audit meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in November. I arrived at Henderson and Associates at 9 sharp, wearing my best suit and carrying a briefcase full of evidence. The receptionist directed me to the conference room where Marcus and his team were waiting. I'll never forget the moment I walked into that room. Marcus was sitting at the head of the table, confident and smug, probably thinking this was just another routine audit. Sarah was beside him, taking notes in her capacity as his assistant. Neither of them looked up when I entered. Good morning, everyone. I'm Daniel Crawford from Thomson Industries, and I'll be conducting your performance evaluation today. The sound of my voice made Marcus's head snap up. His face went white when he saw me, and I watched as the color drained from Sarah's cheeks. Daniel, Marcus's voice cracked. What are you doing here? I'm here to do my job, Marcus. I'm the Director of Client Relations and Strategic Development at Thomson Industries. We hold your company's contract, and I'm here to determine whether Henderson and Associates meets our standards for continued partnership. The room fell silent. I could practically hear Marcus's heart pounding as he realized the implications. Sarah looked like she might be sick. Now, let's begin with your performance metrics for the past year, I continued, opening my briefcase. I've been reviewing your reports and I have some concerns about their accuracy. What followed was the most satisfying hour of my life. I methodically went through every falsified report, every inflated number, every suspicious transaction. Marcus tried to interrupt several times, but I shut him down each time. Mr. Crawford, one of the other managers, finally spoke up. Are you saying that Marcus has been lying in his reports? I'm saying that the numbers don't add up, I replied calmly. And when numbers don't add up, it usually means someone has been creative with the truth. By the end of the meeting, Marcus was sweating profusely. Sarah had stopped taking notes and was staring at the table. The other managers were looking at Marcus with a mixture of shock and disgust. Based on my findings, I concluded, I'm recommending that Thomson Industries terminate our contract with Henderson and Associates, effective immediately. Furthermore, I'll be forwarding this information to the appropriate authorities for further investigation. Marcus finally found his voice. Daniel, please, Can we talk about this privately? I can explain everything. I'm sure you can, I said, standing up. But I'm not interested in explanations. I'm interested in the results, and your results have been fabricated. As I walked toward the door, I heard Marcus call out desperately, "Daniel, wait, I'm your brother." I stopped and turned back to face him. My brother wouldn't have stolen my wife. My brother wouldn't have betrayed my trust. My brother wouldn't have committed fraud. I don't know who you are, but you're not my brother. The investigation that followed was swift and thorough. Within a week, Marcus was fired from Henderson and Associates. Within a month, he was facing criminal charges for embezzlement and fraud. Sarah lost her job too, as it came out that she had been helping him falsify documents. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. The irony was perfect. Marcus had chosen Sarah over family loyalty, and now they were both unemployed and facing legal troubles. Meanwhile, I was thriving in my new position, earning more money than I'd ever dreamed of, and finally feeling like I had control over my life again. But the story doesn't end there. About 3 months after the audit, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Sarah. "Daniel, I need to talk to you. Please." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near my office. She looked terrible. Pale, thin, and desperate. The confident woman who had left me for my brother was gone, replaced by someone who looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. "I made a mistake," she said, before I could even sit down. "The biggest mistake of my life. I threw away everything we had for this disaster." "What do you want, Sarah?" "I want to apologize. I want to make things right. Marcus and I, we're not together anymore. He blamed me for everything when he lost his job. He said, if I hadn't seduced him, none of this would have happened." I almost laughed. "So now you want to come back? Now that your grand romance has fallen apart? I know I hurt you terribly. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know that I regret everything. Every single day." I looked at her across the table, this woman who had once been my everything. I felt nothing. No anger, no love, no desire for revenge. Just emptiness. "Sarah, I forgave you a long time ago. Not for your sake, but for mine. I couldn't carry that anger anymore. But forgiveness doesn't mean I want you back in my life." She started crying then, quiet tears that she tried to hide behind her coffee cup. "I know. I need you to know that I'm sorry. I know you are. But some things can't be undone. Some bridges can't be rebuilt." I left her sitting there and walked back to my office. That was the last time I spoke to either of them. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Marcus had been sentenced to 2 years in prison for embezzlement. Sarah had moved back to her hometown in Ohio, working as a waitress and living with her parents. Their fairy tale romance had lasted exactly 8 months from start to finish. Meanwhile, my life continued to improve. I met Jennifer, a brilliant attorney who worked for one of Thomson Industries' client companies. She was nothing like Sarah, grounded, honest, and completely unimpressed by my sob story. She liked me for who I was becoming, not who I had been. We've been dating for a year now, and I've never been happier. I've been promoted twice at Thomson Industries, and Mr. Thompson has started talking about me as a potential successor. I own a beautiful condo downtown, drive a car. I actually chose instead of settling for what I could afford, and I wake up every morning excited about the day ahead. The betrayal that nearly destroyed me ended up being the catalyst for the best period of my life. I learned that sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you is also the best thing, because it forces you to discover who you really are and what you're truly capable of. I never set out to get revenge on Marcus and Sarah. I was just doing my job, being thorough and honest in my evaluation. But sometimes the universe has a way of balancing the scales. Sometimes the people who hurt you end up destroying themselves, and you don't have to lift a finger. The last I heard, Marcus was working in construction after his release from prison, living in a studio apartment and struggling to make ends meet. Sarah never reached out again, which was probably for the best. As for me, I'm planning to propose to Jennifer next month, and Mr. Johnson has offered me a partnership in the company. My brother chose his secretary over our anniversary. In losing them both, I found myself, and in the end, that was the greatest gift they could have given me, even if they didn't mean to give it. Life has a funny way of working out. The people who betray you often end up betraying themselves. The people who choose temporary pleasure over lasting loyalty usually end up with neither. And sometimes, the person who loses everything is the one who ends up winning in the end. I don't hate Marcus and Sarah anymore. I don't wish them ill, but I also don't miss them. They're part of a chapter of my life that's closed now, and I'm too busy writing the next chapter to spend time rereading the old one. The moral of the story isn't about revenge, or karma, or getting even. It's about resilience. It's about the fact that you can survive the worst betrayal and come out stronger on the other side. It's about the realization that sometimes the people who hurt you are actually doing you a favor, even when it doesn't feel that way. If you're going through something similar, if someone you trusted has betrayed you, if your world has been turned upside down by people you thought you could count on, I want you to know that it gets better. Not immediately, not easily, but it does get better. You might not get the dramatic revenge story that I accidentally stumbled into. You might not get the perfect job or the perfect new relationship, but you will get something better than revenge. You'll get the chance to rebuild your life on your own terms, stronger and wiser than before. And that, in the end, is worth more than any relationship built on betrayal, any job secured through fraud, or any temporary happiness stolen from someone else. The life you build after surviving betrayal is truly your own, and no one can take that away from you. So here's to new beginnings, to second chances, and to the strength we never knew we had until we needed it. Here's to the realization that sometimes losing everything is the first step toward gaining everything that actually matters. My brother chose his secretary over our anniversary. I chose myself over my past, and that made all the difference. But the story doesn't end there. Success has a way of attracting both admirers and enemies, and my rise to the top of Thomson Industries wasn't without its challenges. About a year after the Henderson & Associates incident, I received an unexpected visitor at my office. It was my mother, Eleanor, looking older than I remembered, but still carrying that stern expression that had kept Marcus and me in line throughout our childhood. "Daniel, we need to talk." I hadn't spoken to my parents since the divorce. They had taken Marcus's side, believing his version of events where I was the cold, distant husband who had driven Sarah away. The truth about his embezzlement and fraud had been kept quiet. Thomson Industries preferred to handle these matters discreetly to protect their reputation. "Mom, what brings you here?" She sat down across from my desk, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "Your brother is struggling, Daniel. He's been out of prison for 6 months now, and he can't find decent work. His criminal record follows him everywhere." "I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm not sure what you expect me to do about it. I expect you to help your family. I expect you to remember that blood is thicker than water." The conversation that followed was one of the most difficult of my life. My mother had no idea about the real reason Marcus had been fired, no knowledge of the embezzlement or the fraudulent reports. In her mind, I was the successful son who had somehow engineered his brother's downfall out of spite over a failed marriage. "Marcus made his choices, Mom. He has to live with the consequences. He's your brother, Daniel. He made a mistake with Sarah, but that doesn't mean you should destroy his entire life." I didn't destroy his life. He did that himself. I wanted to tell her the truth, to explain exactly what Marcus had done, but something held me back. Maybe it was the last vestige of loyalty to the family we used to be. Maybe it was the realization that destroying Marcus's reputation with our parents wouldn't change anything. It would just cause more pain. After she left, I found myself thinking about family, about loyalty, about the thin line between justice and revenge. I had gotten my comeuppance, but at what cost? I had lost not just my brother and my wife, but my entire extended family who still believed I was the villain in this story. The weight of that isolation hit me harder than I expected. Success was sweet, but it tasted bitter when you had no one to share it with. That evening, I called Jennifer and told her about my mother's visit. She listened without judgment, the way she always did, and then said something that surprised me. Maybe you should tell them the truth, not to hurt Marcus, but to free yourself from carrying this burden alone. What do you mean? I mean, you've been protecting him, in a way. You've let your family think you're the bad guy to spare them the pain of knowing what Marcus really is. But that's not fair to you. She was right. Of course. I had been protecting Marcus, even after everything he'd done. I had absorbed the blame, the judgment, the loss of my family's respect, all to preserve some illusion of the golden boy they thought he was. The next week, I received another unexpected call. This time it was from Marcus himself. Daniel, I need to see you. It's important. We met at a diner on the outskirts of town, far from anywhere either of us might be recognized. Marcus looked terrible, thin, hollow-eyed, wearing clothes that had seen better days. Prison had aged him, and not in a good way. I know you probably don't want to see me, he began, but I need to ask you something. What is it, Marcus? Did you know, when you took that job at Thompson Industries, did you know they were auditing Henderson and Associates? I considered lying, but there seemed no point anymore.
No, I didn't know. It was a coincidence.
A very ironic coincidence. He nodded slowly. I've been wondering about that for 2 years. Whether you planned it all, whether you somehow orchestrated my downfall. I didn't need to orchestrate anything, Marcus. You did that yourself. I know. His voice was barely above a whisper. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you in ways that can't be fixed. But I need you to know that I never meant for any of this to happen. What did you think would happen? You stole my wife, Marcus. You betrayed my trust. Did you think I'd just accept it and move on? I thought. He paused, running his hands through his hair. I thought I loved her. I thought what we had was real. I thought you'd understand eventually. And now? Now I know I was an idiot. Sarah left me the moment things got difficult. She didn't love me, Daniel. She loved the idea of me, the excitement of the affair, the thrill of doing something forbidden. But when it came to actually building a life together, when it came to standing by me when things got tough, she ran. I felt a strange mix of vindication and pity. I'm sorry you had to learn that the hard way. Are you? Are you really sorry? The question hung in the air between us. Was I sorry that Marcus had suffered? Was I sorry that his grand romance had fallen apart? Was I sorry that he'd lost everything? I'm sorry that it had to happen this way, I said finally. I'm sorry that you made the choices you made. I'm sorry that our family was destroyed, but I'm not sorry that you faced consequences for your actions. Marcus nodded, as if he'd expected that answer. I want to make something clear, Daniel. I'm not here to ask for your forgiveness. I'm not here to ask for your help. I'm here to tell you that I understand why you did what you did. I didn't do anything except my job. You did your job, knowing it would destroy me. You could have recused yourself, could have passed the audit to someone else. But you didn't. You saw it through to the end. He was right, of course. I could have stepped back, could have avoided the conflict of interest. But I hadn't. I had wanted to be the one to expose him, to confront him, to watch his world crumble the way mine had. Yes, I admitted, I wanted to be the one to bring you down. I wanted you to know that actions have consequences. I wanted you to feel what I felt. And how does it feel now, now that you've gotten your revenge? I thought about it for a long moment. Empty, I said finally. It felt satisfying at first, but now it just feels empty. Destroying you didn't fix what was broken. It didn't bring back our relationship. It didn't make the betrayal hurt less. Then why did you do it? Because I was angry. Because I was hurt. Because I wanted you to pay for what you'd done. But mostly because I was trying to prove to myself that I still had some power, some control over my life. We sat in silence for a while, Two brothers who had once been best friends, now separated by a chasm of betrayal and revenge. "I'm going to leave Seattle," Marcus said. "Eventually. I'm going to start over somewhere else. Somewhere where nobody knows my story. I wanted to tell you goodbye." "Where will you go?" "Denver. Maybe. Or Phoenix. Somewhere warm. Somewhere different. I have some money saved up from the construction job. Enough to make a fresh start." I pulled out my wallet and placed $500 on the table. "Take this. For travel expenses." He stared at the money, then at me. "Why?" "Because despite everything, you're still my brother. And because I'm tired of carrying this anger around." Marcus picked up the money slowly, as if it might burn him. "Thank you. Don't thank me. Just try to be a better man than you were. Try to make better choices." "I will. I promise." As he stood to leave, I called out to him, "Marcus?" He turned back. "For what it's worth, I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope you find some peace." His eyes filled with tears. "You too, Daniel. I hope you find happiness." That was the last time I saw my brother. He left Seattle 3 days later, and I haven't heard from him since. Sometimes I wonder if he found his fresh start, if he learned from his mistakes, if he's building a better life somewhere else. The conversation with Marcus had an unexpected effect on me. Instead of feeling closure, I felt more conflicted than ever. I had gotten my revenge, but at what cost? I had destroyed my brother to prove a point, but the point felt hollow now. Jennifer noticed my mood over the next few weeks. She finally confronted me about it on a Saturday morning, as we were having breakfast in my condo. "You've been different since you saw Marcus. What's going on?" I told her about our conversation, about the money I'd given him, about the strange mix of satisfaction and regret I was feeling. "Do you think you made the right choice?" she asked. "I don't know anymore. I thought I was seeking justice, but maybe I was just seeking revenge. Maybe there's no difference." "There's a difference, Daniel. Justice is about making things right. Revenge is about making people pay. The question is, which one were you really after?" That question haunted me for weeks. I had told myself I was pursuing justice, holding Marcus accountable for his crimes. But if I was honest, there had been a personal element to it. I had wanted him to suffer the way I had suffered. The answer came to me during a company meeting about corporate ethics. Mr. Thompson was discussing the importance of integrity in business, about how trust was the foundation of all successful relationships. When someone betrays that trust, he said, the consequences should be swift and decisive, not out of malice, but out of necessity. Because if we don't hold people accountable, we enable them to hurt others. I realized then that both could be true. I had sought justice for Marcus's crimes, but I had also sought revenge for his betrayal. The two motivations had been intertwined, feeding off each other, driving me to pursue the audit with a determination that was both professional and personal. But maybe that was okay. Maybe the desire for personal justice and the pursuit of professional accountability didn't have to be mutually exclusive. Maybe I could live with the complexity of my motivations. The real test came 6 months later, when I received a call from my father. He was calling to tell me that they had learned the truth about Marcus's crimes. A mutual friend had finally told them about the embezzlement, about the fraud, about the real reasons for his imprisonment. "Daniel," my father's voice was heavy with regret, "I owe you an apology." "We all do. We believed Marcus when he said you had engineered his downfall out of spite. We didn't know about the embezzlement. Dad, you don't need to apologize. You were protecting your son. I was protecting the wrong son. You were the one who was wronged, and we made it worse by taking Marcus's side." The conversation that followed was healing in ways I hadn't expected. My parents wanted to rebuild our relationship, to make up for the year of silence and judgment. They invited me to bring Jennifer to Sunday dinner, to rejoin the family gatherings I had been excluded from. But even as I accepted their invitation, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed. The easy trust, the assumption of loyalty, the belief that family would always come first. all of that was gone. In its place was a more mature understanding of relationships, one based on mutual respect and earned trust rather than blood obligations. Jennifer and I went to that Sunday dinner, and it was awkward but necessary. My parents did their best to make up for their earlier coldness, but we all knew that some damage couldn't be completely undone. We were rebuilding our relationship from the ground up, and that was both harder and more honest than pretending the past hadn't happened. As the months passed, I found myself thinking less about Marcus and Sarah, less about the betrayal and the revenge. I was building a new life, one that wasn't defined by what had been done to me, but by what I was choosing to do with my future. The promotion to vice president came with a corner office and a view of Elliott Bay. Mr. Thompson called me into his office the day after the announcement was made. "Daniel, I want you to know that this promotion isn't just about your performance, though that's been exceptional. It's about your character. You've shown integrity in situations where many people would have compromised their values." "Thank you, sir. That means a lot. I'm getting older, Daniel. I won't be running this company forever. I want you to think about what kind of leader you want to be, what kind of legacy you want to leave." The conversation stuck with me. What kind of leader did I want to be? Someone who used power to settle personal scores, or someone who used it to build something better? The answer came to me gradually, through small decisions and daily choices. I chose to mentor young employees who reminded me of myself before the betrayal. Eager, trusting, vulnerable. I chose to implement policies that protected workers from the kind of exploitation Marcus had engaged in. I chose to build a culture of transparency and accountability. In a strange way, Marcus's betrayal had made me a better leader. It has taught me the cost of broken trust, the importance of integrity, and the value of second chances tempered by accountability. Jennifer and I got engaged on a crisp December evening, on the same pier where I used to walk during those dark months after the divorce. She said yes without hesitation, and as I looked at her face in the light of the setting sun, I realized that I had found something I hadn't even known I was looking for. Our wedding was small, intimate, nothing like the elaborate affair Sarah and I had planned. My parents were there, proud and happy, having fully embraced Jennifer as a daughter-in-law. Mr. Thompson walked Jennifer down the aisle, having become something of a father figure to both of us. As I stood at the altar, watching the woman I loved walk toward me, I thought about the journey that had brought me to this moment, the betrayal, the revenge, the success, the reconciliation. All of it had led to this moment of pure, uncomplicated joy. I thought about Marcus too, wherever he was, whatever he was doing. I hoped he had found his own path to redemption, his own way to build something better from the ashes of his mistakes. The past would always be part of my story, but it no longer defined my story. I had learned that the best revenge wasn't destroying your enemies, it was building a life so good that their betrayal became irrelevant. As Jennifer reached the altar and took my hand, I knew that this was what victory really looked like. Not the hollow satisfaction of watching someone fall, but the full-hearted joy of rising above the fall and soaring higher than you ever thought possible. My brother had chosen his secretary over our anniversary. In the end, his choice had led me to choose a better life, a better love, and a better version of myself. And that, more than any revenge, was the greatest victory of all. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.